welcome on into another episode of Getting Wild with Terry and Friends, NHL Preview Show Edition. I'm Terry, Nick beside me, Ian down below, and we are ready to break down some Columbus offseason. Columbus Blue Jackets, an interesting team. Obviously not going to be a Stanley Cup contender, I don't think, unless one of you shock me and say that Columbus is your Stanley Cup pick. But they'll be an interesting team. There'll definitely be ways to make money on them for sure this year. But we'll jump right into the additions and subtractions for Columbus. If you look at the additions list, you'll notice there's only two. So this offseason, Eric Gudbranson and, of course, the big fish there and free agent frenzy, Johnny Gaudreau comes to Columbus. The subtractions section, more depth guys. Not really any big names there leaving. It's more depth guys. I don't really see anybody really there. Any big names at all. Mostly all depth guys there leaving for Columbus. So additions, subtractions. Gaudreau, obviously, is the biggest name on that list. So I guess it would be a plus in the offseason when you look at additions and subtractions. Just the fact that getting Gaudreau long term. We'll go to Nick next. What do you think here? Additions and subtractions for Columbus.
Yeah, so the Blue Jackets are my Stanley Cup. No, I'm just kidding. No, but yeah, obviously there's not too much to go over here for their offseason additions and subtractions. A bunch of depth guys that were all of like fourth string guys. Jean-Francois Berube, we saw him play a couple games when Merce Leakins was hurt. Obviously the big fish is Johnny Gaudreau, and it's been an off season wondering why the hell did he sign with Columbus? Like, that was a genuine question. And then I kind of looked into it, and I think I figured out an interesting angle on why he signed with Columbus over like New York or New Jersey. And it's plain and simple as Ohio's state tax is about half what he would pay in New Jersey or in New York. So he was able to take less money to go to Ohio because he'd pay less. So that was kind of what I had to do in order to understand why he chose Columbus. Also, he gets a pretty decent line mate with Patrick Laine, but overall, it's not too much. They got the big fish, and good for them. That's about it.
Yeah, for sure. Ian, what do you think about Columbus's offseason here?
Well, you got 115 point big fish from last season. That is what Johnny Gaudreau obviously amassed in terms of scoring for the Calgary Flames last year. It was a phenomenal regular season for him. Again, though, it comes back to the same thing in the playoffs, especially the Edmonton series. I'd like to see him take it to that another gear, that next level, if you will, come playoff time. But for the purposes of the Columbus Blue Jackets, a team that's just looking to get back into the playoffs, it's obviously a guy that's going to help them immensely, help them offensively quite a bit. This was a team last year that, at times struggled defensively, but also struggled to score at times. And boy, Johnny Gaudreau is going to go a long way in order to fix that. I would expect him to probably play with Laine. We'll get to that more with the possible lineup later on, but definitely I would see that. But, you're putting 40 goals, 75 assists into your lineup, 115 points last year. And when we've had a full season, we're talking about someone that's gotten to the 80, 90 point mark in the past with Calgary. So he is just one of the top, offensive players in the game. There's no question about that. And he's going to absolutely help. But don't sleep on the Gudbranson signing either. I thought Gudbranson had his best season in years on the blue line last year for the Calgary Flames. Now, I think a product of that was a defensive-minded system and a pretty good defensive-minded head coach in Daryl Sutter helping out Eric Gudbranson a little bit. I thought he was solid in his own end. I even saw him, have more of an offensive upside to him than I've ever seen before. Eric Gudbranson's not exactly been known as Bobby Orr and Paul Coffey rushing the puck up the ice and trying to create offense from the blue line. But I'll tell you what, last year at times, I think he felt a little more confidence playing for this Calgary Flames team, and 17 points, which is the most he's had in a single season since 2018 when he split time between the Penguins and the Canucks. So you give him a lot of credit for that. It's actually his career high in points last year with Calgary with the 17 points. Now, it's still not a lot, but when you factor in that Branson's had 4, 9, 10, 5, 6 points in the seasons prior to last year, and then he has 17, goes to show you how much of an improved season he had. Like I said, I thought it was his best year in the NHL last year, and he's going to give you that physical element from the blue line, knock you on your can, clear the front of the net. Sometimes foot speed can be a bit of an issue. That's usually when he gets into trouble with penalties. He lacks that foot speed to stay one-on-one with forwards coming down the other, coming down the wing or coming at him with speed. But definitely good. Branson is positionally pretty solid, physical defenseman. We saw a little offense from him last year. Like I said, the most points he's had in the season. So I like that signing as well. And a guy that now has playoff experience as well. So I have nothing bad to say about what Columbus did in the offseason. The guys they lost, Dean Kukin, depth defenseman. Scott Arrington was once a very, very highly thought of defensive prospect. Not so much now. Hasn't really panned out at the NHL level. JF Berube is just a journeyman goalie. You'll live with him being gone. Nathan Gerby, same thing, a journeyman, fourth line type player now at this stage of his career, and probably going to retire, I think, pretty soon, if you ask me. Gabe Carlson, same thing. It's a depth defenseman that's replaceable. So they didn't lose anyone of significance, and of course they gained one of the best forwards in the game, and a defenseman that's coming off maybe one of his best seasons ever. So great additions for Columbus. I can't say anything wrong about it.
Yeah, for sure. And to the naked eye, it might look like, whoa, they lost a lot and they didn't get very much. But when you look into it, they obviously got the better quality players.
2 players that are absolutely going to help them and make them better. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. We'll go on here to the next segment, and that's top prospects, upcoming free agents, and the kind of the cap situation for Columbus. Currently, their cap hit $77 million, which is actually not correct. I'll have to update that. They have $400,000 in cap space and $4 million on injured reserve. Currently, top prospects. Columbus is very good, very top heavy prospect system. That's one of the good things you can say about Columbus. Right up at the top there, Kent Johnson. I have him penciled in on the second line for Columbus. He's one of their top prospects. They also have Marchenko, a top winger as well. 3 good defensemen, and even more prospects that I couldn't list. It would have been a long list, but I'm sure Ian will have some other names that I don't have here. Columbus, very good job on the prospect section, and they're probably going to continue that way over the next couple of years as well. So this will be a team to look out for in the future. Looking at what's happening after this year, Gustav Nyquist, unrestricted free agent. Eunice Korpisalo, another unrestricted free agent. Some depth guys there. The biggest 2 names there, Korpisalo and Nyquist. Both unrestricted free agents. Will they both stay? I don't know. I would, if I had to guess, I'd probably say both of them would probably end up moving on. I don't think Columbus is anywhere close to competing at this moment. So I think both could end up moving on. But basically, Columbus, very good with prospects. And not too much free agents to worry about. Their bigger names still signed for a while. We'll go to you first, Ian, here in this one. What do you think about Columbus prospects, upcoming free agents?
Loaded. Top 5, probably player prospect pool. Top 5 in the NHL. And if not, just outside the top 5, but they are right there, in my opinion, top 5. They've got defensive depth with their blue line prospects. They got forward depth with their prospects. They've got a goalie that's waiting in the wings long term that could be a number 1 goalie for them in Danil Tarasov. And now that's not like they're trying to send Elvis Merzlikins out the door, but if for some reason Merzlikins, it just doesn't pan out for him. And this is a big year for Merzlikins. He's going to be the number one goaltender. They're going to give him that opportunity. They're going to give him a full season. This is the year where he's got to put up the numbers, put up the good performances, because they've got Tarasov knocking on the door here to maybe be that number one goalie for the Jackets long term. So very important. But no, their prospect pool is in phenomenal shape. I mean, it's up and down. It's forwards. It's defense. It's a possible number one goalie. They've got, obviously, David Jiricek, Denton Matachuk, like I mentioned, with Tarasov as well on the blue line. They've got Stanislav Svozil. There we go. Stanislav Svozil, Aiden Reschuk, Korsen Kulemans, Kirill Marchenko, Liam Foodie, Tyler Angle, Trey Fix-Wolansky. I mean, you just go on and on. I mean, there's just a ton of incredible prospects that are just waiting to knock on the door and join this hockey team, once they're ready. So it's a loaded group from a prospect standpoint at all three spots: blue line, forward, and goaltender for this team. And of course, there's already one player that I expect to be on this roster right from opening night. And that's the one at the top of that prospect list you see on your screen. And that's Kent Johnson, who, of course, ends up scoring the overtime game-winning gold medal goal for Canada at the World Juniors last month in August. He's already gotten a little bit of playing time with the Jackets last year in a few games. And also, don't forget about Cole Sillinger, who is one of their big prospects, who's been now with the team for quite a while. So the team's got a lot to look forward to in the future. As far as free agents go, Nyquist, of course, probably gone after this year. I can't see them bringing him back. Shinnikov, restricted free agent. Matthew Olivier, see if they bring them back. It's going to be based on performance. It's going to be based on development. Gavrikov hasn't exactly developed as quick as they hoped from the blue line. He's unrestricted after last year. Andrew Peak's an interesting case because he's been a decent, solid defenseman for the Jackets. I think this year's going to be big proving ground for him in that regard. Gavin Bayreuther, of course, has actually, I think, gotten better and better slowly here with the Jackets. And after this year, Jonas Korpisalo, who, coming off a pretty dismal year, to be quite honest, injuries. And when he did get the net, he wasn't very good. So this is a big year for him. If he is just as bad as he was last year, there's absolutely no way I think the Jackets will entertain re-signing him as an unrestricted free agent. So free agents will be an interesting offseason, how they decide that. And as for the prospect pool, like I said, this is a fringe top 5 prospect pool in the National Hockey League. Jarmo Kekalainen and his scouting staff, it's not just him, it's the scouting staff. They deserve the credit. It's the scouts that watch the tape. It's the scouts that go to the games and scrutinize these players to the nth degree. And they're the ones that make the recommendations as to who they should take with each draft pick. So the scouting staff of the Jackets deserves a round of applause for the work they've done.
I completely agree. And I think this prospect pool is only going to get better after this upcoming season. We all know this is going to be a good draft coming up this upcoming year. Nick, what do you think about? I know you don't really follow the prospects that much, but what do you think about the upcoming free agents here for Columbus?
Well, hearing what I just heard about the way this prospect group is going for Columbus and looking at the names at the free agents list, it kind of feels like who gives a crap, because how good these prospects are that are supposed to be coming up. Who cares if they sign Nyquist again? Definitely, who cares if they sign Korpisalo? Bayreuther is probably one of the bigger names for them out of all those. Other than that, there's not really too much to really worry about if you're Columbus having to re-sign any of these guys, especially if the talent you have coming up is going to definitely surpass what you got on your free agents list. The big guys, the important ones, Gaudreau, Laine, like all that, like the bigger names, they're signed down long term, which is a huge prop to Columbus. And now they can bring these kids up and fill in the roster that way. So, yeah, hearing what I heard about this prospect group and looking at what they have at free agents, who gives a crap if they sign half these guys back?
Yeah, totally true. Columbus is definitely a team that their brighter days are ahead of them in the future.
They're going to need some of these players to play, like have career seasons, these unrestricted and restricted free agents. Have these kind of seasons where, whoa, you've really got to think twice about letting you walk in the offseason. Otherwise, they've got a stacked, loaded pipeline of prospects just waiting to get their opportunity. Yep.
And we'll see if maybe they sell some guys at the trade deadline. It'll be interesting to see what teams do at the trade deadline if teams are going to want to give up their first round picks this year. I think we may actually see some teams not really wanting to give up their first. But of course, we'll have to see. I'm sure there'll definitely be GMs that will definitely move their first. But we'll go and look at the possible lineup here with Columbus. And I'm sure there's definitely names that I don't have on the board here. But we'll kind of look. Currently, Boone Jenner and Danil Tarasov are both currently injured at the moment. We'll see if they're ready to begin the season. Going to goaltending, Merzlikins, Korpisalo, Jet Greaves. I haven't really heard of him before, but an interesting name there, Jet Greaves. So obviously, if Tarasov is healthy, he would be above Greaves in the depth chart there. Looking at the defense, pretty weak here. I think defensively, they're towards the bottom of the league in defense here. I think Merzlikins is going to be kind of like he was last year, left out to dry a lot, and he's going to have a lot of work to do behind this defense here. But when we look at the possible lineup up front, Boone Jenner, if he is healthy, will obviously be in that number one spot. But when you look at it, question marks at center. Kent Johnson, obviously, Cole Sillinger, definitely going to be really good prospects. But are they ready for prime time? That remains to be seen. Roslovic is definitely not a number one center. So if Boone Jenner is not ready, I think Columbus could definitely start off a bit slow. But when looking at their top six, Gaudreau, Roslovic, Voracek, Nyquist, Johnson, Laine, maybe they'll have Gaudreau and Laine together. This top six will be able to score. So the question that I had on the Getting Wild Getting Wild Twitter account was, will we hear that cannon a lot this year? And I think Columbus is going to be an over. I agree with Jay Stone, who commented that they'll be over team. I think they will. I think they will score goals, but the defense will definitely leave Merzlikins out to dry, and he'll give up some goals as well. So I think this will be an over team. But their top six looks good. Bottom six, question marks. But as Ian said, they have a lot of good prospects coming. They could have guys that come out of nowhere that nobody's really expecting. And Columbus could surprise some people, especially offensively, I think, this year. We'll go to Nick next. What do you think here about Columbus's lineup?
Yeah, looking at it, obviously, we got a decent top six. Kent Johnson, we're going to see what he's going to do. Obviously, he said he's a highly regarded prospect, so it's going to be interesting to see what he does in the second line center spot. I'm kind of surprised not to see Laine on the top line with Gaudreau. I think that would be something that you would want to have those two high-level players together, because I think those two would be dynamic and be able to put up plenty of goals. And yes, we are going to hear a lot of cannons shot for Columbus this year. We're also going to hear a lot of them against them too, because this defense, I mean, defensively, did they really improve? I don't think. I mean, adding Gabranson was nice, but they didn't really do much for their D-core. And obviously, Werenski is more of an offensive-minded defenseman, and the rest leave question marks. So I think that they are going to get scored on a lot. It's going to be similar to last year, where they're going to play to a lot of overs, and that's really the big question mark in this team is, can they step up defensively? And they have a lot of holes defensively. So I do think they score goals. I do think they give up a lot of goals as well, though. So looking at this lineup, it screams overs at me. But we'll see what they do, see if they can improve defensively at all.
All right. Welcome to Jason in the comments, a Columbus fan. Nice to see your opinions in there. Thanks for coming in. Ian, what do you think about Columbus's lineup here? Potential lineup.
Top six is going to be pretty good. No question about that. When you see what they might be formulating here with Gaudreau, Boone Jenner, and Patrick Laine, I think that's honestly going to be your top line. Then there's some decisions to be made after that. But if that's your top line, that's pretty damn good. there could be instant chemistry between Gaudreau and Laine. I'm sure Gaudreau is going to put that puck on a tee for Laine on the power play. That's going to be a set play that you're going to see often when the Jackets have the man advantage. A great elite passer, playmaker like Gaudreau. Gaudreau's a good goal scorer. He's an excellent playmaker too. I think people forget about that. And so that little nuance there with the two of them on the power play could be really special for Columbus. Jacob Voracek still got a little gas in the tank. We're talking about a guy that's, battled some injuries as well the last couple of seasons, but last year managed to stay relatively healthy and still had 62 points, in 79 games. He's not going to give you a ton of goals, but playmaker and set you up. He's still very good there in that regard. Jack Roslovic, if they could get this guy to play offensively like he did down the stretch last year, where he just was a terror late in the season, ended up with 45 points, 22 goals, 23 assists, and the majority of those were after the All-Star break. I mean, in the second half of the season, he went bonkers offensively. Jack Roslovic. Nyquist there still is capable of getting you 20 goals or close to that at this stage of his career. And then all of a sudden you look at the lineup too, though. Now you've got some options for offense. Kent Johnson might be a third liner for them. Cole Sillinger might be a third liner for them. Sillinger had 16 and 15 last year with the Jackets. 79 games, but he didn't get the ice time other guys got. Kent Johnson's got terrific offensive upside, finish. Again, solid passer, great offensive instincts. Kent Johnson might be a regular, and if Marchenko makes the team, which I'm hearing might happen, you could be talking about a third line that can score a little bit for you. So this is, to me, a team that's going to be able to put the puck in the net, and we know the top six is pretty good. Don't sleep on this bottom six forward group. They might be able to put some things together to make this group, more of an offensive producing group than maybe you would think. The blue line is questionable. Werenski's more of an offensive-minded defenseman. Boquist has been banged up with injuries. Gavrikov had some lapses in his own end. Same with Andrew Peeke. Eric Branson, I thought it was one of his better defensive seasons last year, but that was in Calgary playing for Daryl Sutter and a little more of a, good defensive team and players around you. Not quite the case in Columbus. So can he keep that going here is the big question. Jake Bean, I like from Carolina. I think he's underrated, but keep an eye on Nick Blankenberg, the Michigan product. He got some time late last year with the team. Good off another guy with some offense from the blue line. So that's the thing with Columbus. They've got so many blue liners that have offensive instincts, offensive upside from the back end, but not so much on the defensive end, aside from maybe Goodbranson and aside from Boquist a little bit. So, and Bean's a good defenseman, I think, in his own zone. But Werenski's defensive game lapses. Gavrikov, same thing. Peeke, the same thing. So you're going to get a lot of offense from the blue line, probably some mistakes from the blue line. And I'm sure Brad Larsen's going to work on their defensive game. And what are you going to get from Elvis Merzlikins? We know he is I'm ready to say he's a solid goalie. 3.22 goals against, 907 save percentage last year. But I'm not ready to call him a good goalie yet or a great goalie. This is going to prove that this year. And let's be honest, he's going to have a team that's got some, some holes defensively in terms of that blue line group. So I don't disagree with anyone thinking this is going to be a team that cashes some overs next year and is involved in some higher scoring teams, especially when you look at last year, how, they were 14th in the NHL last year in goals per game, the Jackets, at 3.15 goals per game. Well, that number is only going up this year with Johnny Gaudreau in the lineup, with Kent Johnson maybe making the team. They're only going to improve on that. This actually could be a top 10 offensive team this year in the NHL. They're going to improve on that 14th ranking offensively. But last year, they were 28th in the NHL defensively, 3.62 goals allowed per game. And I don't know if that's going to get a whole lot better because I don't know if they've upgraded themselves defensively quite a bit. So, and you look at the Jackets last year in terms of over-under, what were they in terms of over-under? They were a huge over team last year, 48-29 to the over. They're at least going to be that this year, in my opinion. So you made money with Columbus overs last year, and they weren't even close to the offensive team they're going to be this year. So I think definitely Columbus overs right in line with everybody else thinking that way.
I think the only problem with that is we're going to see a lot of sevens for them this year.
Maybe not at first.
Not at first. You pounce in October, like with so many of these money line sides and totals. before the adjustments are made. Like, if you're going to fade Chicago and Arizona, I keep going back to those two teams, you don't fuck around, all right? You don't wait around. You don't mess around. You just get on them, against them right away in October, because you may only be laying $1.50 against those teams in October. But I know for sure if they're as bad as I think they might be, you're going to be laying minus 250, minus 300 January and onward, and then the value's gone.
For sure. Jason, the Columbus fan, says most fans feel that Kent will start at wing and Cole will be the number one center in people's thoughts. He also says that it's time for Pittsburgh and Columbus to take a step back. And
I agree on Pittsburgh.
We'll push hard for the top three. And this is also something I heard about Elvis after Kivlenix passed away, and the cannon actually gave him PTSD and really affected with him. So I definitely heard that.
Don't you, if you're working in the Columbus organization, if you hear something like that Elvis had PTSD, don't you shut the fucking thing off? I mean, at some point, don't you just say, you know what, the person and his human and the human being side of things and how it's affecting him emotionally has to supersede and override this fucking tradition of ours that we have here in Columbus for these home games where we sound the cannon every time we score. Doesn't that have to take over and take precedent at some point? I mean, talk about fucking tone deaf. Get a clue, guys. The guy just suffered through a traumatic incident, and let's let him deal with it the proper way. And if he says this cannon is giving him emotional strain right now after a brutal, tough, painful personal incident, tragedy, losing his countryman there and his best friend there, Kivlenix, then you shut the cannon off. Simple.
Yeah, I think that's why they got rid of it.
Yeah, he says they didn't admit it till the season was almost over. So we'll have to see what they do this year. I hope that he's able to, or I hope that they get rid of it, or
I would just explain it then. But still, yeah. I mean, hopefully now they'll do something then. If it's still something that's what it is. It's like the war veterans, they flash back to a scene in the war, and it's traumatic for them, and it's a certain sound effect, a certain vision, whatever it is, and it impacts them. So, yeah, hopefully if it's still bothering them, they do something about it.
For sure. We'll get to the last 5 years and look at Columbus's futures for this year. So we'll take a look at their last 5 years. They made the playoffs, 2017, 2018, 2019. But the last 2 years, no playoffs for Columbus. All pretty much 500 last year. 37, 38, and 7 for 81 points. Their point total this year, 80.5. So will they match what they did last year, or will they take a step backwards? To make the playoffs, plus 600, minus 900 to miss the playoffs, plus 5,000 to win the division, plus 10,000 to hoist the Stanley Cup. Looking at the futures here, that 80.5 is a very interesting point total. I get it. Columbus is in a very difficult division. That is definitely true. But does Columbus take a step backwards this year after what they've done in the offseason? I don't think so. So I think if you're looking at the point total, I would have to go over. Even if you look at 2 years ago, they hit the over in 70 games. Obviously a much different team now. So 2019, 2020, a few years ago, completely different team. But looking at the prospects that are going to be coming in, if I was going to go with anything here at the futures, I would be over the point total. I don't think Columbus makes the playoffs. The Atlantic Division is stacked. The Metro is stacked. It's going to be very hard for Columbus to make the playoffs. But I do think that they can hit 500 next year or this upcoming year. We'll go to Ian next. What do you think about the last 5 years for Columbus, and what do you think about their futures for this year?
Offensively, they will be better. Columbus, there's no doubt, no question. They're going to score. They're going to score goals. This team. They're going to be fun to watch. They're going to put the puck in the net. The power play is immediately going to be better. Full year of Laine, Gaudreau now on that power play. That power play is going to work magic potentially for Columbus. The Problem with me thinking that they're going to make this huge jump is, again, the defensive issues, and I've got to see Elvis for a full year in goal. I think it's all about keeping the puck out of their net. The penalty kill struggled last year. Elvis had an okay season at best. The defensive play was below average. It was subpar. So we're going to have to see that improve. But I'll say this right now about Columbus. I mean, you said they're in a tough Metro division. If I'm Columbus, I'm taking my chances in the Metro division this year compared to the Atlantic or the Pacific or some of these other divisions. I think there's some vulnerability with some of these teams in the Metro division this year. I've got concerns about Washington, a grizzled old Caps team. I've got concerns about Pittsburgh this year. The Islanders did jack shit to do anything to improve that hockey team in the offseason. What? The Islanders had everything go wrong last year, new arena on the road at the beginning of the year, COVID, and now they do nothing and they just think, hey, snap our fingers, things will bounce back this year. No, you've got to add talent. They didn't do that this year. So I've got questions about the Islanders bouncing back like some people think. Devils still have a long way to go to get back to respectability. Are they going to get saves? Is their defense going to improve? Philly, to me, is still a lost cause, even with Torts there. What did they do to improve? There's a lot of vulnerability. This is a division where for Columbus, it's there for the taking. I see a great Carolina team. I see a great New York Rangers team. And then I see a wide open division after that. That's what I see this year in the Metro. Why not Columbus if they can get some saves? Why not Columbus if the defensive game and the blue line can progress and do a better job keeping the puck out? Why not? We know they can score goals. That's going to be not an issue for them. And Johnny Gaudreau, I'm sure, is going to be amped up to have a big first season there. But there's going to be some nights where they're going to have to win games 6-5. It's just the way it's going to be. They're going to have to outscore their teams. But they are good enough offensively to outscore teams on many nights, including these teams that I'm all very much got a little bit of a question mark about in that division. Pittsburgh, a Washington, an Islanders, a Devils, a Flyers. You can't tell me the Jackets are much, 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 much worse than any of those teams entering the season. So if things break right for them, this absolutely could be a playoff team. I lean to the over with the point total. I think I'd feel better about the plus 600 to make the playoffs. I think just a couple bucks on that. Then I don't have to worry about how many points they get. And I'd feel better about taking a shot with that than the point total. But small shot, I would maybe, or a flyer on the plus 600 to make the playoffs. That would be the one thing that would intrigue me about Columbus futures-wise.
All right. That is pretty good value, though, plus 600. So, yeah, I can talk you off that. Nick, what do you think about Columbus's futures in their last 5 years?
This team has no man's land written all over them. Like, they're not going to be really bad, but they're not a playoff team. I do see the top two are pretty solidified there in the Metro division with Carolina and with the Rangers. I do think the Islanders do bounce back a little bit after last year. It's the same roster it's a relatively same roster that's made back-to-back semifinals 2 of the last 3 years and just had everything go wrong last year. I still think Washington has a decent push in them potentially here. I'm not high on Pittsburgh, so I can see them potentially finishing 5th in front of Pittsburgh. I'm not. Philly's going to finish last in that division. They're an absolute joke still. And New Jersey, I need to see them be able to stop the puck first. So in this division, I feel like this is no man's land, and I want nothing to do with futures with this team because I can see them finishing at 80, 81 points, missing the playoffs, and not having to worry about a division or anything like that. So this is probably, out of any team in the NHL, this is probably the easiest pass for any type of futures for me because I could see them finishing with 81 points, 80 points, and just be in the middle of no man's land.
All right. A little bit of a preview there for our Monday show, the New York Islanders. Tuesday will be the New York Rangers, and tomorrow on Saturday will be the New Jersey Devils. So make sure to tune into those shows. I think that's it for Columbus. Yes, guys? Yeah?
That is. I won't be here for New Jersey, so I'll just say with them, it's kind of like Columbus Part 2. There's really not much more to say. They're going to be able to score in bunches. The Devils, the offense ain't going to be their problem. Next year, when you look at that lineup, they bring in Andre Palat from Tampa, which was, I thought, a great move. I think they paid a little bit too much for him, but no, he's still a great player. A Stanley Cup winning experience going to help. Hughes, Bratt, Sharon Govich, Heesheard, Mercer, Andreas Janssen. Eric Howlett, Thomas Tatar's on a third line. Miles Wood could start the year on a fourth line for that team this year. Are you kidding me? I mean, offensively, they're going to be really good, New Jersey. But same shit with them as Columbus. Defensively, there's problems there. Vitek Vanacek and Mackenzie Blackwood shitting in the dead of night. They're not goaltenders I trust, really. Either one. I mean, Blackwood's always hurt, and when he's in there, he's inconsistent. Vitek Vanacek, same thing, up and down last year with the Caps. And they've got Bernier there, he's Jonathan Bernier. I mean, he's a journeyman, veteran, older goalie. He's not going to be the savior. So, again, it's kind of like Columbus Part 2. A lot of overs for New Jersey coming up, probably from a game-to-game total standpoint. As far as bet on, bet against, kind of like Columbus. I want to see which of these two teams, Devils and Jackets, it's amazing how much they mirror each other. I want to see who steps up defensively. Who's going to keep the puck out of the net? Which defensive unit, which blue line is going to, block shots, get the penalty kill turned around, be good at 5-on-5 defensively, get saves from their goaltender consistently. Which one, New Jersey or Columbus? Whoever is probably going to be the team that finishes better this season, has at least a better chance to make the playoffs, if they even do.
All right. And that is today's show. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the content, smash the like button. We appreciate all the support. And we'll see you again tomorrow for New Jersey, Monday for the New York Islanders. Have a good one, guys.